I was asked about casting distance the other day, and one of the most common mistakes people make is not adjusting their reels properly or filling them full line properly. I see a lot of guys with their lines on the spools not filled up all the way. A typical reel that I use is a spinning reel. And if you look closely at the spinning reel, you can see the spill is filled all the way full there. So, and you want to try to match your rod and reel up. You know, if you look at that, that's pretty level right there in front of the reel seat where I'm holding the reel, so it's good and balanced. And it's a 6.5 footer here, so you're going to be able to cast a pretty good distance with something like this, even with a small weight. This particular reel is spooled up with 8-pound tests, so I'm always a light line fisherman. I don't really fish a real heavy line. That's another thing that I do. But you want to make sure you got it spooled up completely. You don't want to half fill your spool, or you know, and you want to put a good quality line on there. I'm starting to be a huge fluorocarbon fan, so that's one of the things you can do. And then another thing is I use a Baitcaster a lot. And if you look at this Baitcast reel right here, you can see that that spool is filled all the way up. And another thing, this little knob right here on the side is a tension knob. It adjusts your spool. So you want to adjust that so your lure just falls at a nice even pace until it hits the floor. And then you'll know that you got that little knob adjusted right. Now on this particular reel, what you can do is, and I'll have to get a screwdriver or something here probably to do it. Well, I got that one loose. Let's see what I got here. I might be able to get this other side loose here real quick too. Yep, I got it loose. Okay, here you go. What you do is, not all reels have this, but a lot of your newer reels do. But I'm a huge Shimano fan, so I'm pretty sure that most of your Shimanos have it. This particular reel here is a Calcutta, and it's a small one. It's a 50. But if you look at this spool, you can see how it's full. The line's all the way full, maybe a 1/16 of an inch away from that lip. But if you look here, these are little weights that you can turn on and off. So what you want to do is play with these weights until you figure out how to get your spool balanced to the way you cast. And if you do this and you take the time to do that, that actually counterbalances this spool and makes it cast a lot farther. So outside of the adjustment knob, getting these spools adjusted properly is one of the big things that you really need to do. And there's a lot of reels that have the weight system, like I just showed you on the Shimano. I'll play with the weight systems until, you know, turn 2 or 3 on, 2 or 3 off, turn 1 or 2 on, 1 or 2 off, and you can get a good feel for it. Another thing that I've seen with bait casters is a lot of guys will try to throw them really, really hard. Well, that's going to create a backlash on that reel. You don't really need to whip it that hard. You just need to throw it at a nice, you know, steady pace. So I don't put a lot of power behind my swing. It's mainly in the action of your rod and the weight of your lure that you're going to get that good casting distance. And this was a Shimano reel here that I showed you. And also have this Team Daiwa. Well, Daiwa's got a different approach to it. If you look, this is a magnetic adjustment here. This is a Team Daiwa Baitcaster high speed. And it also has the adjustment knob here. But if you look, every one of my reels are filled up. That's very important. And then this one, I actually have the magnet on 2. but you'll have to play with this until you can get it right on your particular model. So every one of these reels has a different adjustment on them for as far as bait casters go. Some's magnetic and some's got the weight systems like the Shimanos. And you just got to play with it and turn them weights on and off. And adjust this knob here to get your lure to fall right. Adjust your magnets. If you're not very good with a bait caster, I'd start off, you know, maybe 7 or 8, 9 on the magnet there. On the ones with the pin adjustments on the inside of the spool, like the Calcutta, turn them all on. Put the reel back together, adjust your knob so your lure falls, make a few casts with it. If it's not casting as far as you'd like, take the spool back off, turn some of the weights off, and put it back on there. And you're going to find a happy medium where you can just cast this reel out with no problem, no backlashes, and all of that stuff. But the more you throw one of these reels, the more you'll realize that you take the magnet as low as you can, you adjust this out so your lure drops real, you know, fast to the ground. You can actually adjust them so when it hits the ground it will not backlash. That's what I would recommend for somebody that's just starting to throw one of these bait casters. Me myself, you know, it being on 3 right now, I've got this knob pretty loose right here on the side. If I don't put my thumb on the spool, this reel will actually backlash. And the same with the Calcutta. But that's just because I've been throwing them forever, so it's just a lot of practice. But again, a spinning reel, you're not going to run into a lot of the backlash problems. There's not a lot of adjustment as far as any weights or magnets go, because it just flows right off of the spool. But the most important thing is to fill that spool up and make sure you've got a good quality line. Don't go cheap on your line, because like this particular rod and reel here, and I've got cheap ones, I've got expensive ones, I've got all kinds of rods and reels. But this particular one here is a Shimano Stratic, and I've got it on a Temple Fork Outfitters 6.5 foot medium light rod. I do a lot of fishing with this, and you can take and put a cheap line on here and it will not cast as good as it will with a quality line. And I can't tell you the best brand of line to buy by any means, but I've been going with a fluorocarbon, something with a little bit low stretch, a little bit less visibility, a little better on abrasive resistance, because no matter how much you spend on this rod and reel, the most important part is this line. Because if you don't have a good line, you're not going to get your fish in. And that's just a simple fact. You can have a $5 rod and reel with good line on it, and it's going to cast better and land more fish than a $200 reel with crappy line on it. You know, line that's no good. So I don't skimp on my line. I buy the best line I can afford, and I fill them full. All these reels I just showed you, this is 8-pound fluorocarbon. On my Calcutta 50, it's also 8-pound fluorocarbon. The bigger rod that I have here, this is a Team Dial rod and reel combo. It's a 7-foot medium heavy. But yet again, you know, it's probably rated for 20-25 pound test or something crazy like that. Let's see what it is here. It is 10 to 20 pound test. Well, I've probably got 12 pound test fluorocarbon on this particular rod and reel, and I can cast this outfit a long ways. I don't go with a real stiff rod. I just never did like a stiff rod. I like to feel the fish hit the lure, and I actually like to see my rod bend when I get a fish on. I set the hook. I'm a fish fighter. I'm not a guy that drags them across the top of the water. I don't get no enjoyment out of that. So, but this rod and reel here, I've caught 40 pound shovel head on it. Big blue cast, as you can see, even with 12-pound test. I've got a 6-aught circle hook on it here. I've got an 1 3/4 flat river sinker with a swivel and a river sinker right there. See that? That's, you gotta have that anytime you're fishing current. You gotta have that little flat sinker. But anyways, the line is the most important part of any of these outfits that I have. And like I said, I've got these Shimano Sedonas. I've got a little Quicksilver spin cast that I use depending on what I'm fishing for. So, and every one of the rods, no matter what they cost, I've got $20 reels, I've got $200 reels, and they've all got good line on them. Without that line, you're not going to get good casting distance, you're not going to land your fish, and in order to get the distance out of any of them, you got to have the spool full, and you got to play with this magnetic thing here. When I put this on 10, I can't cast maybe 15, 20 yards. When I put it on 3, I cast halfway across the Ohio River, you know what I mean? So there's a big difference in adjusting them, and you got to play with them. But the looser you adjust these Baitcast reels, especially on the magnets and the tension knob on the side right here, as soon as that lure gets ready to hit the water, you're going to have to thumb the line to keep it from backlashing. And that just comes with practice, you know. But I've always had baitcasters in my arsenal, and I can't imagine not having one. But I'll take this one, this little Calcutta 50, and I'll throw 1/8 ounce jigs on it, 3-inch grubs, number 7 Rapala jerk baits, small 1/8 ounce spinners. I don't use real big lures, you know. I'm up here in the north of Ohio, so it's not going to do me much good to go out and throw a 1 ounce spinner bait when you know, you're just not going to catch as many fish. I've always found that the lighter line I use, the lighter lures I use, the smaller lures I use, the more natural they look, the more fish I catch. This particular reel right here is actually rigged up. I've been catching sauger on it, and I'll show you this little hook here in a minute. I kind of got it tangled up here, throwing it around, trying to show you guys what's going on. But I've got a little bitty number 8 Gamakatsu circle hook on there, and that's it right there. That's a fish catching little hook right there. So I hope that helps you a little bit there. But I know all your Shimanos has got the internal weight system in them, and that's going to help you increase your casting distance tremendously if you play around with that until you get comfortable with it. The Team Daiwa has got the magnets on it. I'm not sure what Garcia and some of the other brands have got, but you're going to have to play with the magnetic casting, and especially the internal weight systems. If they've got that, that is the way to go right there. But like I said, I can't stress enough, I've had Curados, I've had Cronards, I've had Shimano reels my whole life, all the way back to the TX series and the Speedmasters, and I've just, you know, you buy one, and this particular reel right here is probably 15 years old, or 10 maybe, I don't know, it's old. I've had it for a long time. You can see the coating on the rod starting to chip off. This is a Shimano Crucial rod and a Calcutta 50 reel, and it's got more fish than it probably should have been allowed to. As you can see, it's starting to look pretty rough. The butt section there is a little But can't go wrong with Shimano. Can't go wrong with them at all. You know, they're just a great reel. But you got your little tensioner there. This is actually your drag system here. Disc drag and the internal weights inside. But the most important thing is the good line, and make sure you got your reel spooled up. And then play with the weights and adjust the magnetic tensioners until you can get that casting. But don't go out there and throw this rod like you're trying to launch it to the moon, because you're just going to end up with a lot of problems. Take it out there, give it a nice easy whip, and that lure is actually going to propel that line right off the reel. I mean, just lickety split. I don't think you can see it, but my little reel is just flying when I let off the handle there with the weight on it. I mean, it just cruises right off of there. So I hope them few tips that I gave you right there will help you get some more casting distance out of your reels and a little less problems. But you'll have to check your box when you buy your reel and see how your particular reel adjusts. But it's worth the effort to read the directions and figure out how they work. I really like this weight system on the spools that Shimano has. It just works excellent. It takes all the magnet out of it, because even if you've got your magnets turned all the way off, there's still magnetic pressure on that spool, because the magnets are always going to be magnetized, of course. But that's the advice that I have there, is to adjust the pins and the magnets. And I mean, I really can't say nothing wrong about Dio or Garcia. They're all excellent products, especially when you get into their high-end stuff. But this one has got this little, you just twist that little thing there. You know, it's on 10 now, and just adjust it on around. Put it back to 3 where I had it. I'll be good to go when I get back out on the water. So that's on 3. This is adjusted out loose as I can get it. You know, I gotta have a little bit of tension on it, but if you look, that is just I'm moving it right there. I'm not having to take my thumbs and force this knob down, because this is a tensioner, and you want as little tension on the spool as you can get it without backlashing and causing a lot of problems. And it's just going to be the way you cast, and so you're going to have to adjust it for your individual needs, and sometimes even weights, because if you go from like say a 1/4 ounce lure to a 1/2 ounce lure, the 1/2 ounce lure is actually going to cast farther than the 1/4 ounce, but it's also going to spin the line off of the spool faster, so you might have to play with this little adjustment knob. But once I get these magnets set to where I like it, and I can get excellent distance out of it, I never change them. I just leave it the same. I'll use this adjustment knob. And that's the same way with the weight system on the Shimano reels. Once I get the weights set, and I can go out and I can cast, and I'm happy with a 50, 60 yard cast, or whatever I'm casting at that particular time with that particular lure, then I leave the weights alone. I don't ever mess with them again. I run everything off these little tension knobs right here. But the first thing you want to do is get the magnets or the weights or whatever your particular reel has as far as spool control adjusted to the way that you cast to your satisfaction. And then it's all going to be in this little knob from there. So I hope that tip works out for you, and I hope it makes you a lot better caster. You can get the distance you want, the control you want, everything. It just takes a little time to play with it. So that's about all I can say on that. And you know, keep them oiled. They've all got little oil ports on them. You know, this little Calcutta, you can see right there, it's got a little spot where you can drop a little reel oil in there every now and then to keep it operating smooth. And if you do those few things right there, you'll start getting a lot of distance out of your reels as far as casting distance, and I think it'll improve your accuracy as well, because you're not, you know, constantly trying to whip that thing real hard. You can actually pinpoint where you're going to cast the lure to. You know, I can lay lures right next to stumps or on rocks or on the edge of grass, or barely hit the bank and then pull the lure in. As far as spinner bait goes, you can catch a lot of fish doing that. Plastic worms, I always try to hit the bank before I drag them into the water, unless of course I'm fishing a ledge or something out in the main lake or river channel. But that's pretty much it, is the line and the way you adjust it. So I hope that works out for you.